I woke up in someone else's life, inside the plot of a novel. That very night, I slept with a woman who, for 3 years of marriage, the original owner of this body had never even touched. We went at it all night long. The next day, she went to a hotel to meet her long-lost love, the one who'd just flown back into the country. They were halfway through taking their clothes off. That's when I kicked the door clean off its hinges. My first kick landed square in his crotch, sending him flying across the room. My second move was a hard slap across my wife's face. Seeing the two of them on the floor, whimpering and begging for mercy, I just scoffed. You think this is the end? We're just getting started. The night I arrived in this world, I carry my wife, fresh from her shower, into the bedroom. I'll give the book this. The female lead was a true knockout. A tiny waist, legs for days, and skin so pale it was almost luminous. She was breathtaking. Even through her silk nightgown, I could feel how smooth her skin was. My heart skipped a beat. How the hell did the original guy in this story manage to keep his hands off her for 3 years? Was he even a man? What a criminal waste. My wife, Sophia, looked completely panicked. She gripped my arms, her knuckles white. Ethan, what are you doing? Put me down now. I told you I'm frigid. I'm not interested in that. You promised you'd respect my boundaries. If I hadn't known the whole story, I might have actually believed the sincerity in her eyes. She'd been feeding the original Ethan that line about being frigid, all while saving herself for her one true love. The second he was back in the country, she planned to jump into bed with him. In the end, the original guy didn't just get cheated on. Under her lover's direction, Sophia started secretly slipping him a slow-acting poison. He didn't last more than a few years before he was 6 feet under. Sophia inherited his billion-dollar fortune and lived happily ever after with her man. And now she was telling me she was frigid. Who the hell was she trying to fool? Well, since I was here now, there was no way I was letting that pretty boy get his hands on what was mine. I placed her gently on the bed, a smirk playing on my lips. Honey, you've told me before you're a virgin, right? So how would you even know you're frigid? Sophia quickly pulled the covers over her body, hiding herself from view. Her eyes darted around the room, refusing to meet mine. I'm not interested in that. I lay down next to her and gently stroked her long, soft hair, softening my tone. Interest is something you cultivate. Besides, we've been married for 3 years, and we've always slept in separate rooms. People are starting to talk. They're saying you only married me for the Hayes family money. If you don't love me, that's fine. We can get a divorce. I'll set you free. The moment I mentioned divorce, Sophia panicked. Her grandfather, the patriarch of the Miller family, was in failing health. She absolutely had to secure her position as the heir to the Miller Corporation. What's more, the Miller and Hayes families were in the middle of negotiating a $500 million joint venture. The contracts weren't signed yet. If we divorced now, her grandfather would be furious. The inheritance she saw as hers for the taking would likely go to her younger sister. She would not let that happen. She immediately threw her arms around me. Of course I love you, honey. Don't think crazy things like that. Just give me a little more time, please. Damn, this woman was trying to have her cake and eat it too. Years ago, the Miller Corporation had faced a severe financial crisis. To survive, they had no choice but to arrange a marriage with the original Ethan, who was pathetically devoted to her. To make sure the deal went through, Sophia's grandfather had personally intervened, sending her precious Julian Vance overseas. The original Ethan had been obsessed with Sophia since they were kids. He naturally agreed without a second thought. The result? 3 years of a hands-off marriage. But it was this marriage that cemented Sophia's position as the primary heir. Now, the mere mention of divorce sent her into a panic. Yet she still wouldn't give in. And in the end, she was on a plot with her lover to steal everything the original Ethan owned, without giving up a single thing herself. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Knowing this, I wasn't about to let her get her way. I wrapped my arms tightly around her soft body and buried my face in her neck, inhaling deeply. Perfect. I could feel her body tremble slightly, her breathing growing more ragged. Okay, honey, I can give you time, I whispered. But we're husband and wife. It's not asking too much for me to just hold you while we sleep, is it? Sophia seemed to sense that I was different from the Ethan she knew. But if she refused this, it would be too suspicious. She could only nod. Okay, fine. But just holding. I immediately put on a wounded expression. Honey, we've been married for 3 years. You don't trust me? Sophia thought back on the last 3 years, how I'd catered to her every whim, given her everything she asked for, and never once lied to her. A rare flicker of guilt crossed her face. She snuggled closer into my embrace. I trust you, Ethan. It's late. Let's just go to sleep. The lights went out. A man and a woman, alone in a room. A legally married couple. The atmosphere quickly grew charged. Our bodies were pressed tightly together, and soon enough, chemistry took over. Her body grew softer, hotter. I moved to kiss her, but she quickly turned her head away, her voice pleading. Ethan, you promised. You said you would just hold me. Honey, just one kiss. We've been married for 3 years, and I've never even kissed you. You swear, just one kiss. I swear. Half an hour later. Ethan, be gentle. The battle was intense. It wasn't until the first light of dawn broke through the window that the fighting finally subsided. The next morning, I left the house early and called a private investigator I had on retainer, telling him to tell my wife. Today was the day her lover, Julian Vance, was due back in the country. In the original story, the two of them went straight to a hotel and did everything you can and can't imagine. Thank God I showed up a day early. Otherwise, the thought alone would have made me sick. The moment they checked into the hotel, I calmly dialed the number for the head of the Vance family. Marcus, your illegitimate son is back, and he's currently in a hotel room with my wife. I want him castrated. In return, that $1. 5 billion Reynolds project overseas. It's yours. The voice on the other end of the line was electric with excitement. Mr. Hayes, you do whatever you feel is necessary. I'm on my way to pick him up right now. Beat him, cripple him, whatever you do, I'll take responsibility. I hung up with a cold smile. I wasn't surprised by Marcus Vance's response. 3 years ago, his bastard son Julian almost derailed the corporate alliance between the Hayes and Miller families. It forced Marcus to come groveling to both families, offering apologies. And now, the kid was back for one day and was already causing the same trouble. Marcus Vance had other illegitimate sons. For a $1.5 billion deal, he'd probably cripple Julian himself if he had to. What Marcus didn't know was that, in the book, the Reynolds project was a massive fraud. It was the very deal that crippled Hayes Enterprises, leaving it a shadow of its former glory. Since his own father was giving me a blank check, I could act without restraint. I arrived with my bodyguards and kicked the hotel room door open. My men started snapping photos of the stunned couple. Julian, still disoriented, didn't even see who it was. Who the hell are you? Get the hell out of here, he yelled. Sophia, coming to her senses, screamed as she tried to cover herself. Ethan, what were you doing here? Seeing I had enough evidence, I walked over to the half-dressed Sophia and slapped her hard across the face. Then, I sent Julian flying with a vicious kick. I strode over, grabbed him, and started beating him senseless. You have the balls to bring my wife to a hotel room. Sophia tried to pull me off him, and I backhanded her across the face again. You bitch, why shouldn't I be here? You call yourself frigid. I guess last night wasn't enough for you, was it? Trying to cheat on me. Is this the kind of class the Miller family teaches? Sophia clutched her red, swollen cheeks, tears streaming down her face. It was impossible to tell if they were from pain or humiliation. Julian, curled up like a shrimp, managed to regain some composure. Ethan, it's not what you think. It's a misunderstanding. Sophia was just helping me to my room to rest. You've got it all wrong. Before he could finish, I slammed my foot onto his face. A misunderstanding? I leaned down, patting his pretty boy cheek, my voice ice cold. You bring a married woman to a hotel, her clothes are half off, and you call it a misunderstanding? Julian, do you really take me for an idiot? My tone shifted. Since you've seen have a taste of my sloppy seconds, why don't you get on your knees, bow to me 3 times, and I'll let you have her? That sentence filled Sophia with a burning sense of shame. She was furious, pointing a trembling finger at me. You bastard, Ethan. What are you talking about? Nothing happened between us. Julian seemed to latch onto a loophole in my words, a sneer on his face. Sloppy seconds. Ethan, Sophia told me you two haven't done anything in 3 years of marriage. Didn't you know? She's been waiting for me this whole time. I looked over at Sophia, a knowing smirk on my face. You've been telling me you're frigid for 3 years. Is what Julian's saying true? And my question, Sophia's face went white as a sheet. She couldn't look at me. I, honey, it's not what you think. Seeing this, Julian's eyes filled with triumph. Even with my foot on his face, he had won a spiritual victory. He chuckled. You heard her, Ethan. Sophia has only ever had me in her heart. Your marriage is nothing but a joke. I looked down at him with pity and suddenly burst out laughing. Julian, did she not tell you? When she got out of bed this morning, she could barely walk. As soon as I said it, Julian's mind flashed back to when he picked Sophia up from the airport. He remembered her strange, stiff walk. He'd even asked her about it, concerned. She told him she'd just sprained her ankle. The realization hit him like a freight train. His eyes turned bloodshot as he stared at Sophia. Sophia, that's not true, is it? Tell me it's not true. You promised you'd save your first time for me. Under Julian's murderous gaze, Sophia lost it. She could only shake her head helplessly, fat tears rolling down her cheeks. Sophia, say something. Julian's voice was raw with anger and disbelief. Tell me he's lying, isn't he? You said you'd wait for me, no matter how long it took. You said you'd slept in separate rooms for 3 years. Seeing his crazed expression, Sophia's heart shattered. She bit her lip, shaking her head furiously. Julian, I'm so sorry. I couldn't keep my promise. A roar filled Julian's head. He completely snapped. Ethan, I'm going to kill you. He thrashed wildly, screaming at me, the veins on his forehead bulging. My bodyguards quickly moved in to pin him down. I had a laugh. Was he actually acting like I was the one who cheated on him? What a joke. I decided to twist the knife. Julian, looks like your great love wasn't so powerful after all. She was sleeping with me one night and whispering sweet nothings to you the next. If you really want a cheap woman like that, just beg me. I'll give her to you. You, shut up. Sophia's heart clenched. My words were a profound humiliation. I slapped her again. Shut up, Sophia. We were in bed together last night, and today you're shacking up with this pretty boy. You tell me, aren't you a whore? Sophia's head was spinning. The man who had been her devoted lapdog since childhood would never have dreamed of hitting her. Now he was slapping her without a second thought. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Seeing her devastated look, I felt not a shred of pity. Sophia, we're done. I want a divorce. A divorce. Sophia looked at me in shock. This was the second time I'd said it. But this time, to her horror, she realized I was serious. She rushed over to grab my arm. Honey, I was wrong. I don't know what came over me. Julian was still thrashing and screaming. Ethan, you son of a bitch. I'll get you for this. That finally pissed me off. A homewrecker this arrogant. I've been too easy on you. I shoved Sophia aside and landed a solid punch on Julian's face. He roared in agony. Ethan, if you have any guts, you'll let them go and fight me one-on-one. Let him go, I barked. My bodyguards immediately released him. Before Julian could even get to his feet, I was on him, punching him again and again until he was a crumpled mess on the floor. Now he was truly scared. He curled into a ball, covering his head and pleading. Ethan, Mr. Hayes, I'm sorry, please stop. Sophia, who had never seen me this violent, was completely stunned. She ran over and wrapped her arms around me. Ethan, stop. You're going to kill him. I backhanded her again, sending her stumbling to the ground. Ethan, you hit me again? Sophia wailed, clutching her face. My parents never laid a hand on me in my entire life. Sniff, you're a monster. Oh, boo-hoo. You were about to cheat on me, and I hit you. So what? And you're still defending this punk. I ignored Sophia and turned back to Julian, who was cowering on the floor. My eyes blazed with fury. I started kicking him over and over. He screamed, his face contorted in pain. Finally, he broke. I'm sorry, Mr. Hayes. I'll never do it again. Sophia, help me. Sophia didn't dare try to pull me away again. She frantically fumbled in her purse for her phone and screamed. Ethan, that's enough. If you hit him one more time, I'm calling the police. I barked an order at my bodyguard. Smash her phone. The second she pulled it out, a guard snatched it from her hand and smashed it to pieces on the floor. Sophia froze. She stared at the shattered phone, then at me, still furiously kicking Julian. She suddenly realized the man in front of her was a stranger, and he terrified her. I kicked Julian over onto his back. Then I drew my leg back and brought my foot down with full force on his crotch. No! Aha! A blood-curdling scream echoed through the room. A dark stain spread across his pants. Even my bodyguards went pale, each instinctively shifting to protect themselves. They exchanged horrified glances. Hotel guests who had gathered outside tried to peek in, but my bodyguards blocked the doorway. This hotel was owned by one of my business partners. I had called ahead. The hotel manager and security were just maintaining order outside. Not a single person dared to come in and ask what was happening. Sophia stared at the bloody, brutal scene, trembling uncontrollably. Her eyes were wide with disbelief. She never could have imagined things would escalate this far. Julian's face was a mask of pain and despair. After the initial scream, he just stared at me, his eyes filled with a hatred so intense it was as if he wanted to tear me limb from limb. Ethan, I'll kill you. You just wait. I'll never let you get away with this. He endured the agony, fumbling for his phone with a shaking hand and making a call. I watched him with a detached amusement, not stopping him. The call connected, and he started sobbing. Dad, Ethan Hayes. He crippled me. You have to come. I want him dead. Before he even hung up, Marcus Vance appeared at the door with his own men. Seeing him, Julian was like a drowning man grasping at a final piece of driftwood. He ignored the pain and scrambled, crawling, to his father's feet, tears and snot streaming down his face. Dad, you have to get justice for me. I want Ethan Hayes torn to pieces. Sophia rushed over to corroborate. Mr. Vance, it's true. Ethan did this. He just kept hitting Julian. I couldn't stop him. Some of the onlookers recognized Marcus. A buzz went through the crowd when they realized the victim was a son of the Vance family. Marcus Vance had made his fortune in some shady industries. Though he was legitimate now, his reputation in New York was still formidable. Everyone thought I was in for a world of hurt. Marcus's face turned black as thunder. But I was the only one who knew his anger wasn't directed at me. It was for the worthless, crying bastard at his feet. He slapped Julian hard across the face. Shut up, you worthless creature. He looked down at Julian, the muscles in his face twitching. You've been back one day, and you cause a disaster of this magnitude, and you have a nerve to ask me for justice. I, Marcus Vance, have no son like you. You've brought nothing but shame to this family. The slap stunned everyone into silence. Even Sophia's eyes went wide. Julian was dumbfounded. He stared at his father in disbelief. Dad, Ethan's the one who hit me. Why are you hitting me? He's the one who. He hit you. Even if Mr. Hayes killed you today, I'd say you had it coming. You disgrace. Marcus then strode over to me, shaking my hand with both of his. Mr. Hayes, I apologize for my son's poor upbringing. Rest assured, if he ever bothers you again, I will personally break his other two legs. I returned the handshake, smiling. Don't worry, Mr. Vance. A deal's a deal. Marcus let out a sigh of relief. He turned to the bodyguards he'd brought. What are you standing around for? Get this embarrassing piece of trash to a hospital. Get him out of Mr. Hayes' sight. Several large men stepped forward and unceremoniously hauled Julian to his feet. He seemed to want to struggle and scream, but one of the guards expertly dislocated his jaw, silencing him. All that came out was a muffled, agonized whimper. Julian was dragged away like a sack of garbage, leaving a foul-smelling trail on the carpet. The crowd of onlookers was dead silent, completely shocked by Marcus's ruthless display. They had expected me to face the full wrath of the Vance family. Instead, the patriarch himself was bowing and scraping before me, willing to personally dispose of his own son to appease me. Marcus said a few more words to me and then left. Sophia, not daring to stay any longer, bit her lip and rushed after them toward the hospital. I didn't bother with her. It wasn't like she and Julian could get up to any real trouble now. Well, they could always be sisters. 9. At one of New York's top hospitals, Julian was stabilized after emergency surgery. The bleeding was stopped, and his vitals were normal. But his third leg was mangled beyond repair. The doctors had no choice but to amputate. When the anesthesia wore off, Julian completely broke down. He screamed obscenities at the sympathetic doctors and nurses surrounding his bed. Get out! Get the hell out, all of you! Sophia had been waiting outside. When the doctor emerged, she rushed forward. Doctor, how is he? Is there any chance that he can recover? The doctor shook his head grimly. Are you his girlfriend? We did everything we could. To save his life, we had to remove it. The word struck Sophia like a bolt of lightning. She stood frozen, swaying on her feet. How? How could this happen? She stumbled into the hospital room in a daze. Seeing Julian's face, pale and filled with despair, her heart ached, and tears began to fall. Julian, how are you? Are you feeling any better? Lying in the bed, his eyes empty, Julian heard her voice and whipped his head around. His eyes were shot through with blood vessels and a nearly insane, venomous rage. Better, Sophia? I'm a eunuch, and you're asking me if I'm feeling better? The hatred in his eyes made Sophia recoil. Her tears fell faster. I am sorry, Julian. It's all my fault. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have. Shut up, you bitch. Julian cut her off, his chest heaving. The movement seemed to aggravate his wound, and his face twisted in pain. But the physical pain was nothing compared to the humiliation and despair of losing his manhood. What good does it do to say you're sorry now, Sophia? Huh? You tell me, what good does it do? Are you just here to laugh at me? He glared at her, wishing he could tear her apart. This is all because of you. You bitch. If you hadn't been leading me on, if you hadn't lied and told me nothing ever happened between you two, I never would have come back. I never would have ended up like this. Sophia, why don't you just go die, 10? He unleashed all his humiliation and fury on Sophia. In his mind, her deception and seduction were the root cause of his ruin. Sophia was utterly stunned. She couldn't believe that the gentle, refined man she had dreamed of for years could say such vile things to her. She had remained faithful to him for so long, only to be met with his insults and curses. She burst into a laugh filled with self-loathing. I'm a bitch. Julian, I almost ran out on my own wedding for you. I stayed a virgin for 3 years for you. The day you came back, I followed you to a hotel and hurt the one man who ever truly loved me. Yes, I'm a bitch. But what about you? How many women have you been with in Europe these past few years? Did you really think I didn't know? My father and the Hayes family forced you to leave, and I've felt guilty about it ever since. Now that my father is sick and Ethan's father has retired, I thought it was safe for you to come back. I thought you would finally settle down for me. I was willing to give you a chance. And what do? You blame everything on me. Are you even a man? That last sentence made Julian fly into a rage. It's your fault I'm not a man. Sophia, I was single in Europe. You bitch. I could be with whoever I wanted. What does that have to do with a married woman like you? Sophia, you're a married woman. You committed adultery. You have no shame, and now you have the nerve to question me. His words were like icy daggers plunging into Sophia's heart. Julian continued his impotent ranting. Sophia, when I was in Europe, I told you I'd bring back a slow-acting poison for you to give to Ethan, and you didn't object, did you? I'm a goddamn illegitimate son with no inheritance. If I wasn't after the Miller and Hayes fortunes, do you think I would have wasted all these years trying to charm a married woman like you? You not only cheated, you were planning to poison your own husband. What's the difference between you and some black widow? You're a venomous woman. Get out, 11. Julian grabbed the glass of water from his bedside table and hurled it at Sophia. He screamed, his face a mask of rage. I don't want to see you again. The sight of your hypocritical face makes me sick. Get out. The glass flew past Sophia's cheek and shattered against the white wall. Shards of glass and water sprayed over her. Sophia was trembling with rage, her teeth clenched. Fine. Julian, you finally said what you really think. Yes, Sophia Miller, was blind and stupid and cheap to betray Ethan for a piece of trash like you and end up here. But what about you, Julian? She screamed. You're nothing now. A pathetic waste who isn't even a man. What do you have left? You've made an enemy of the Hayes family. And when my father finds out about this, he'll want to kill you too. Do you think the Vance family will still want you? Do you think any of those women you knew in Europe will give you a second look now? All you can do is rage like a cornered animal. You're pathetic. You. Her words hit him where it hurt the most. He trembled with fury, and his wound, freshly stitched, began to bleed again. But he didn't seem to feel it. All he wanted was to lunge at her and tear her mouth off her face. "Let me tell you something, Julian," Sophia said, a strange, twisted pleasure rising in her as she watched his pained and pathetic state. She began to laugh hysterically. "We are completely, totally over. Julian, go ahead and be a cripple for the rest of your life. Never touch a woman again. Spend your life being mocked by everyone. You deserve it." Julian lost his mind, screaming, "Bitch, I'm going to kill you." Sophia ignored his murderous glare. She turned sharply and walked out of the room without looking back. 12. Sophia drove straight back to our house. The moment she walked in, she saw me lounging on the living room sofa. On a coffee table in front of me was a document. I saw her and sneered. "Well, look who decided to come home. Since you're here, you can sign the divorce papers." "Divorce?" She looked at me in disbelief, then stared at the papers on the table. "Ethan, how could you do this to me? Last night we—" A flash of anger crossed my face. "Don't you dare bring up last night, Sophia. We sleep together for the first time, and the very next day you're in a hotel room with your lover. Don't waste my time. Either sign the papers or the entire internet gets to see just how classy the Miller family really is." Sophia swayed on her feet. She was finally truly scared. She gritted her teeth, and then her knees hit the floor with a thud. "Ethan, I was wrong." She looked up at me, her eyes red-rimmed. "I don't know what I was thinking. Julian tricked me. Please, just give me one more chance, okay? I swear I'll never do anything to betray you again." I set down my glass and pointed at the papers on the table, my expression blank. "Sign them. You leave with nothing. That's your only option right now." Sophia looked at the divorce papers, her eyes filled with terror. She shook her head, crying, and tried to crawl over and hug my legs. "No, I won't sign. Ethan, I love you. Nothing even happened with Julian. We grew up together. We're childhood sweethearts. After all these years, you can't do this to me." I kicked her away and looked down at her, my voice dripping with contempt. "Childhood sweethearts? All these years. Don't you think that's ironic, Sophia? When you were sneaking off to a hotel with Julian, were you thinking about all these years, when you two were plotting to slowly poison me? Was that on your mind?" Sophia's whole body trembled, her pupils shrinking. She stared at me, horrified. "You? How could you? How could I know?" I reached out and gently patted her cheek, a cold smile on my face. "There are no secrets in this world, Sophia. You not only cheated, you plotted to murder your own husband. Did you really think I'd keep a viper like you by my side?" An immense fear gripped Sophia. She collapsed on the floor, pleading incoherently. "No, that was Julian's idea. I never agreed to it. Honey, you have to believe me. I love you. I would never hurt you." "Love." I laughed out loud and held up my phone, playing the video of her and Julian, half undressed in the hotel room. "Sign the papers and get out of my house." Or, I paused, looking at her ashen face, my voice turning to ice. "I released this video, along with the details of your little murder plot. Let everyone see the true character of the esteemed Miss Miller. Your choice." Sophia lay crumpled on the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Finally, she signed her name. The following evening, Marcus Vance delivered a liability waiver personally signed by Julian. Looking at the signature, pressed so hard it nearly tore the paper, I could feel Julian's overwhelming hatred. I tossed it aside. A moment later, the butler announced that Sophia's younger sister, Chloe Miller, had come to visit. Well, that was fast. She couldn't even wait a day to make her move. I told the butler to show her in. Chloe was wearing a short, pale pink floral dress that showed off a pair of long, slender legs. She was beautiful, easily on par with Sophia, but it was her eyes, large and expressive, as if they could speak, that were truly captivating. "Ethan, I heard about the foolish things my sister did," she began. I came to apologize to you on her behalf." I smirked, looking directly into her eyes. "Apologize? Even if your sister did something wrong, why should you be the one to apologize?" Chloe bit her lip, looking at me with a pitiful, innocent expression. "My sister did something to hurt you, and she made you angry. My father has already punished her severely, but she is her, and I am me. I'm willing to make it up to you for what she did." I just hoped that the $500 million partnership. Of course, this woman was no amateur. With Sophia and I divorced, the Miller family was in a panic. For years, most of their business had depended on the Hayes family. If I decided to cut ties, not only would the $500 million deal collapse, but I would pull out of all our other joint ventures as well. Their stock would plummet, their cash flow would dry up, and the Miller Corporation would be ruined. If their competitors decided to strike while they were down, the family could be wiped out completely. But for Chloe, this was the perfect opportunity. If she could secure the $500 million deal, she would be the hero who saved the company. The board of directors wouldn't be stupid. It would be obvious who should be the next CEO. Make it up to me. I beckoned for Chloe to come sit next to me. She smelled faintly of roses, as if she had just bathed before coming over. My fingers gently traced the line of her cheek. Her eyes fluttered, and she nervously gripped the hem of her pink dress. I softened my voice. "And how? Do you plan on doing that?" Chloe blushed and lowered her head, murmuring softly, Anything you want." This woman was playing at high level. That feigned innocence was perfected to an art form. The hint was obvious. I decided to stop playing dumb. She let out a small gasp as I swept her into my arms and carried her into the bedroom. After a long night, I was surprised to discover she was still a virgin. Clever women know the value of a rare commodity. The next morning, when I handed her the $500 million contract, her expression soured. Chloe looked up, her eyes wide. "Ethan, this is a poison pill contract." "Of course it is. I'm planning on sending your entire family to hell." That's what I thought, but I sighed and said, "Chloe, you know I was married to your sister for 3 years. I sent projects, resources, everything your family's way. The board of directors has been unhappy with me for a while now. For this new project, the Miller Corp isn't exactly the best partner we could choose. This contract was a unanimous decision by the Hayes board." "Of course," I added with a reassuring smile. "You have me in your corner. What's there to worry about?" After my explanation, Chloe relaxed. After all, Miller Corp and Hayes Enterprises had worked together countless times. And every time there was a problem, hadn't I been the one to bail them out? With that thought, Chloe's last doubts vanished. She signed the contract. As I watched her leave, clutching the hidden time bomb of a contract, a cold smile spread across my face. The fish was on the hook. As expected, the Miller Corporation's website released a statement the same day. Chloe Miller was appointed the new CEO. As soon as the $500 million partnership was announced, their stock hit its upper limit for the day. For a brief moment, the Miller family was the talk of the town, and Chloe was hailed as New York's newest business prodigy. Shortly after, the Vance family made their own big announcement. They had secured a $1.5 billion partnership with the overseas Reynolds Group. The news sent shockwaves through the city's business community. Everyone thought the Millers had stabilized and were poised for even greater heights, while the Vances, backed by an international giant, were about to take off into the stratosphere. Meanwhile, my first move was to triple my personal security detail. New York's business world was about to become a vortex that could tear you to shreds. Then I took my new girlfriend, a rising starlet, on a vacation to the Caribbean to get away from it all. In the weeks that followed, the situation deteriorated rapidly. Everyone could see that the Miller and Vance corporations were finished. Shortly after the Millers signed the poison pill contract, their suppliers began finding fault, pulling funding, and canceling contracts for all sorts of flimsy reasons. Then, government agencies launched investigations into all of their major projects, grinding everything to a halt. Panic spread through the company. On the stock market, Miller shares were dumped en masse, hitting their lower limit day after day. Their capital chain was on the verge of snapping. The partners who had been watching from the sidelines weren't idiots. They moved to protect themselves, cutting all ties with the Millers. Debt collectors surrounded their corporate headquarters. The Miller family was in a full-blown crisis. Chloe was furious. She knew exactly whose hand was behind it all. The first companies to pull their funding were the very ones I had introduced to her family. But there was nothing she could do. She had no proof. She called me countless times. I never answered. She used every connection she had, but couldn't find a trace of me. She wasn't eating. She wasn't sleeping. She had smashed everything in her office to pieces. The $500 million contract that had brought her such glory was now the guillotine hanging over her family's neck. The penalty for breach of contract was 5 times the initial amount, a sum they could never hope to pay. The fate of the Miller family rested entirely on my whim. The Van Cest had it even worse. The $1.5 billion overseas project was quickly exposed as a massive fraud. The family declared bankruptcy, and their assets went into liquidation. Only after the dust had settled did I return from my vacation. I had just gotten back to the Hayes Enterprises headquarters when my assistant came in, looking uneasy. "Mr. Hayes, Miss Chloe Miller is here to see you." I nodded. "Send her in." The Chloe who walked in was a wreck. The elegance and confidence were gone. Her hair was a mess. She had dark circles under her eyes, and they were shot through with red veins. It was clear she hadn't had a decent night's sleep in weeks. She stormed up to my desk and slammed her hands down on it. "Ethan, you bastard! You set me up!" she shrieked, her voice sharp and trembling with a mixture of rage and despair. I looked at her calmly, a faint smile playing on my lips. "Ms. Miller, whatever are you talking about? You came to my house to beg me for that $500 million project. You signed a contract willingly. It's all there in black and white. Where's the setup? Willingly, huh?" Chloe was shaking with fury, pointing a finger at my nose. "You planned this from the very beginning, didn't you, Ethan? The poison pill contract, the suppliers who all backed out at once. It was all you. You never had any intention of sparing my family. You were trying to destroy us." My expression hardened instantly. I slapped the file in my hand down on the desk with a loud crack. "Don't push it, Chloe. If you have evidence, present it. If not, I suggest you watch your mouth before I sue you for slander." Chloe looked like she was about to explode. She had paid a terrible price to get that contract, only to walk straight into a trap I had designed. And now I was turning it all back on her. Her once expressive eyes were now burning with pure hatred. She lunged at me like a wild animal, but my personal bodyguard intercepted her, holding her fast. "Ethan, I'm going to kill you." She struggled for a moment longer before her energy gave out. Her rage evaporated, replaced by a profound despair. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you do this to me? Ethan, we grew up together. You were never like this." Her face was a mask of confusion and bitter resentment. I looked at her and laughed. "Chloe, did you really think you were so clever that no one would ever find out?" At those words, a jolt went through her. Her eyes darted away, unable to meet mine. I don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, still playing dumb, are we? The 3 of us grew up together. You knew perfectly well how I felt about your sister. Your father wanted us to get married years ago. But you couldn't stand that, could you? You knew that if Sophia married me, her position as the Miller heir would be unshakable. So you found that illegitimate punk, Julian Vance, and pushed him toward her. You knew all of Sophia's likes and dislikes. With you feeding him information, it was easy for him to win her over. It's just a shame he got sent away 3 years ago. Otherwise, your plan would have succeeded back then, wouldn't it?" With every word I spoke, the color drained from Chloe's face. The anger in her eyes was replaced by sheer terror. I don't understand." I shrugged. "I'm not a judge. You don't have to admit it." I leaned forward, stared her down. "Did you know that Julian and your sister were planning to poison me?" Chloe's pupils constricted. She started to tremble uncontrollably. What are you trying to say?" "I don't know anything. Their plan has nothing to do with me. Nothing." I leaned back in my chair, that same faint smile on my face. "I told you, I'm not a judge. No need to deny it. The poison Julian prepared. It was the same type of poison that's been making your father so sick, wasn't it?" She opened her mouth to argue, but I cut her off. "If you deny it again, I'll have a professional forensics team run the tests right now." At that, Chloe's face turned a deathly gray. Her legs gave out, and if the bodyguard hadn't been holding her, she would have collapsed. There was an interesting detail in the original novel. In the end, Chloe also died of a mysterious illness. And the biggest winner, of course, was the very person I was talking to. I pushed a document across the desk toward her. "Sign it. Transfer all of your family's shares to me, no charge. In return, I'll allow you to sell your personal assets and take your family abroad. Don't ever come back. Otherwise, even if I don't call the cops when the penalty clause in the contract kicks in, you won't have a penny to your name. Consider this my final act of kindness, for old time's sake. You know you have no other choice." She looked up, her eyes filled with a bone-deep hatred, but it was overshadowed by a sense of resigned defeat. She knew she had lost, completely and utterly, and she knew I was telling the truth. She had no other choice. If she didn't sign, she was facing prison time and total financial ruin from the contract. She wouldn't be left with a single dollar. If she signed, she could at least sell her personal property, take her family, and flee the country in disgrace to live out her days. It was the last shred of mercy I was offering her, a path paved with humiliation, but her only way out. Using what seemed like the last of her strength, she despairingly signed her name. I picked up the share transfer agreement, glanced at the signature with satisfaction, and nodded to my bodyguard. "See Ms. Miller out. Tell her to go home and get ready to move." The bodyguard hauled Chloe out of my office. This time, she didn't struggle or scream. She was like a walking corpse. The door closed. I picked up the phone and dialed the heads of asset management and legal. "The Miller Corp share transfer is complete. Begin immediate acquisition and restructuring of all their assets and operations, and release a public statement. The Miller Corporation has been fully acquired by Hayes Enterprises." 3 days later, a piece of news sent a minor shockwave through the city. The entire Miller family had been killed in a horrific car accident on their way to the airport. The driver of the truck that hit them, Julian Vance, was apprehended at the scene with 2 broken legs. Julian was just a pawn in Chloe's game. After I had him castrated, he had completely lost his mind. I could understand that. No man could accept such a fate, especially a pretty boy who lived off of women. With his primary tool gone, of course he went insane. He had been trying to get revenge on me, but I never gave him the chance. The Miller family became his second target. All I did was have someone leak the family's travel itinerary to him. I never expected him to cause such a catastrophe. A pawn is a pawn. The Miller and Vance families got what they deserved. At my villa, floating in the pool, the starlet in a sexy bikini saw me staring at my phone. She waved. "Ethan, honey, come on in. You promised you'd teach me how to swim today." I tossed my phone aside and laughed. "How can you learn to swim with a swimsuit on? Take it off." "Oh, Ethan, you're so bad." The end.